Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to Collider Mailbag, the show here on Collider Video, where all we do is take your mailbag questions. My name is John Campea. I am the senior producer over here at Collider Video, and I'm so glad you decided to join us on this Saturday. Now, full disclosure, I'm actually pre-recording this on Friday because I am actually going into Anaheim to go to Disney's D23, hopefully see a little Captain America Civil War, maybe hear them talk a little bit about Star Wars Rogue One. I don't know what they're going to be doing, but that's where I'm going to be, so I decided to pre-record this on Friday. And thank you so much for joining me today as we do it. So, without any further ado, let me just tell you how you get your questions on our show. Just email us anytime to collidervideo@gmail.com. Send on in your questions. We do nothing but take your questions on Saturdays and Sundays mailbag show. And of course, Monday through Friday, we try to get in as many of your mailbag questions on there as we can. So let's get into the first mailbag question of the day. And the first question today comes to us from James Mckenzie, who writes, "Hey Collider crew, how's it going, guys? My question is about film expectations. I mean, for example, do fans set themselves up for disappointment by believing rumors about an upcoming film? For example, Jena Malone is now supposedly Barbra Gordon in Batman vs. Superman. I feel fans set themselves up with high hopes when the studio never confirms this. Then they're upset because it's never in the movie." Well, thanks a lot for the question, James. This is something that I kind of go off on a lot. And it keeps coming up because constantly these rumors come floating around. And, rumors in and of themselves are not really the problem. It's how we respond to rumors. Like, for example, you've heard me harp on this point a lot before, but it bears repeating. There is a difference between a rumor and something being confirmed, right? So I believe this. Something is only confirmed, okay? Only confirmed once you hear it from the studio itself. That is the only time it's confirmed. The studio or one of its representatives, i.e. the guy who's actually going to be directing the, supposed movie, or the person actually starring in the supposed movie, or the person actually writing the supposed movie. In any regard, they're extensions of the studio. It's only once the studio itself says it's confirmed. Too many people in the film fan community, they say, oh, one website said they heard that, let's say Jena Malone was going to be Robin. Remember that? Remember, it was practically fact, depending on who and what you read, but it was all over the place. So one website writes, they're hearing Jena Malone's going to be Robin. And then another website writes the same thing, and then fans go, oh, it's confirmed. Website A wrote it, but website B confirmed it, so it's confirmed Jena Malone is going to be Robin. Well, obviously that's not the case, because neither website A nor website B is actually the studio. Right? So until you hear it from the studio, it is not confirmed. I mean, it got all out that Johnny Depp was going to be, remember this one? Johnny Depp was going to be Doctor Strange, or this person was going to play this role. It happens almost every single day. Now, that's not to say that anything that is not confirmed is not true. There are different levels of truth, I guess you could say, when it comes to reports, especially in the world of movie news. For example, when something is reported by, say, The Hollywood Reporter or Variety, when they put out a report saying, we have our sources who are now telling us that this actor is in talks for this role and he's expected to sign any day, I generally give them the benefit of the doubt. Now, that The Hollywood Reporter is still not Warner Brothers, The Hollywood Reporter is still not Fox, so it's still not confirmed. But even though it's not confirmed, you can probably give them the benefit of the doubt that it's probably the case, and you can talk about it. If something is coming from anything less than The Hollywood Reporter or Variety or things like that, these outlets that have, like, basically speaking, I mean, nobody's 100%, but basically is batting 1,000, okay? Then you can give them the benefit of the doubt and say, it's pretty confident to say, yeah, this is going to be the case, so we can talk about it. On Movie Talk alone, we will sometimes talk about a lot of stories that aren't confirmed because it often will come from The Hollywood Reporter or it's been verified by Variety or stuff like that, and we feel free talking about it. Now, sometimes, too, there are stories that don't necessarily come from The Hollywood Reporter or Variety that we still think there's enough credible thought there that it sounds plausible that we'll discuss it. On Movie Talk, though, what we always try to do over here at Collider is be very, very apparent and be very, very firm about, folks, understand this is not necessarily happening. This is the discussion. This is the rumor right now. Keep in mind, this is just a rumor, okay? Keep in mind, this is just a rumor. And then we'll address it. But oftentimes there will be stories out there that just have no credible basis in fact. Remember that story, and I'm forgetting the name of the actor now, who's going to be in Batman versus Superman, okay? And that picture came out. Nobody knows what roles he was going to play. Scoot McNairy, I think, is the name of the actor. So Scoot McNairy was going to be is in Batman versus Superman. Nobody knows what he's going to play. All of a sudden, this picture comes out. Remember this? This picture comes out with Scoot McNairy with green socks on. Socks that go from, the top of the shoe up to the knee. So it's not just green socks. It's clearly visual effects aids legging, but it goes from his ankle to about his knee. That's all it was. There's a picture of that. All of a sudden, everybody starts running with this story. One site suggested once, Scoot McNairy's probably going to be the Flash. Since he's got green on his legs just from his ankle to his knees, that must mean he's going to be the Flash. And then before you know it, every single freaking website was running with Scoot McNairy, the Flash, even though it was obvious there was no credible information to suggest that he was going to be the Flash. Nobody at Warner Brothers suggested it. His agent didn't let something slip. It was nothing. It was a picture that came out of green socks from his ankles to his knees, and everybody ran with it as, hey, this could be that the guy's being the Flash, even though there's nothing credible on it. We at Movie Talk didn't cover the story except to say this is a ridiculous story. This is an absolutely ridiculous. There's no basis for this. So as film fans, is it okay to talk about stuff that's not necessarily confirmed directly coming from the studio? Yes, absolutely, because there's 50 shades of gray here, pardon the pun, but there's 50 shades of gray. But as film fans, we have to use our own discernment and judgment and say, okay, now wait a minute. People are talking about, Jena Malone being Robin. Is there any actual credible thing behind this to really suggest that this could be the case? And in the case of Jena Malone, there was no credible information to even lead us to discuss her possibly being Robin. That doesn't mean it was impossible that she could have been Robin. Of course it's possible, but we try to deal in probabilities, not possibilities. You know what I'm talking about? So this is all highlighted because either last week or the week before that, we got this one mailbag question from somebody, and I cannot remember what movie it was about. Forgive me, though, I can't remember. But somebody asked, hey, wait a minute, this movie's coming out, and it was rumored that 6 months ago that so-and-so was going to be in it, and now he's not. I thought he was supposed to be in it. What happened? And I said, well, that was just a rumor. Don't listen to rumors. And really, what I should have said, I shouldn't have said don't listen to rumors, because it's okay to listen to rumors, but don't believe rumors. Don't believe them. It's okay. Okay, somebody said this guy was going to play this role. All right. But I'm not going to count on that, and I'm not going to take it as fact. And when it doesn't come to pass, I'm not going to say, well, what happened? This guy was supposed to be in that movie. No, he was never supposed to be in that movie. It was just a rumor. So, and once again, it comes down to the audience and the listener and, websites too, to use their judgment as, is this actually credible? Could this actually be the case? Is there stuff to actually back this up that this could be the case? Do you remember, I think it was about 6 months ago too, that one image came online. It was some weird kind of blurry image that was set up to make it look like it was taken on a movie screen. Do you remember this? And it said Batman versus Superman. It was basically Batman versus Superman was being broken into two parts. There's Batman versus Superman Dawn of Justice was going to open in whatever month, and then Batman versus Superman Enter the Dark Knight or Enter the Night or something like that. It was part 2 opening up another part. It's like, and everybody got all excited. Oh my gosh, did you hear? Batman is being split into 2 parts. But then when you dug around, you found out the basis for that story was some random anonymous image that was put up on Imager. Somebody found that image and said, look, it must be real. And sure enough, it was fake. It was photoshopped. It wasn't real. And yet everybody ran with it. We just got to be careful. Use our judgment, use our discernment. And when it's just rumor, even then use our judgment and think, okay, is there anything to base this on? And even if there is, don't count on it. Just file it away in your brain as rumor and don't count on it. So when Jena Malone doesn't end up being Robin, then we're not disappointed and we're not surprised. Okay, some people talked about maybe it was going to happen, but it didn't because it was never true in the first place. With Jena Malone being Barbara Gordon, it's kind of the same thing. It's like, oh, well, all those websites who wrote that she was going to be Robin, well, now we got to come up with something else. Well, maybe she's Barbara Gordon. Maybe. I mean, her being Barbara Gordon does make more sense than her being Robin, being Kelly, because of the massive age gap and what that just didn't make sense. So her being Barbara Gordon, not a wild guess. It's something we can consider, but just make sure you file it in your head as, no matter how many websites you read it on, until it's confirmed or until a super reliable source like The Hollywood Reporter or Variety actually reports it, don't file it in your head as fact. Don't file it in your brain as if you're counting on it now. So that's just kind of the way I would suggest people look at it. Anyway, let's move on to question number 2. And question number 2 today comes to us from Tye Koellner. I hope I'm pronouncing your name right, Tye. And Tye writes, with reports stating that Benicio del Toro is in talks to do Star Wars Episode 8 and potentially also appearing in Guardians of the Galaxy sequel, which is premiering 3 weeks after Star Wars 8, do you think that Benicio del Toro will be cast as the same type of villain? And will it confuse the average moviegoer? Well, thanks a lot for the question, Tye. I think it's important. Well, first of all, Benicio del Toro is a phenomenal actor. On Friday's Movie Talk, we talked a little bit about the trailer for his new movie, Sicario, which just looks amazing. It's also going to star Emily Blunt, Josh Brolin. That trailer looks badass. And, we forget Benicio del Toro is a multiple nominated and an Academy Award winning actor. He is a phenomenal performer. And this is the type of movie I want to see him in. I didn't love his character in Guardians of the Galaxy. Like, to me, that character was probably the weak point, but it wasn't his fault. It was just the type of character, it's just the way they wanted to make the Collector. I didn't think it worked, but whatever. It wasn't bad. I mean, it didn't take me out of the movie or anything. I didn't find it repulsive or anything. It's just that it's probably my least favorite part of the movie. But anyway, there are talks about him being villain in Star Wars Episode 8. If that's true, and if that comes to pass, it's a fair question. Will that create confusion if he's playing a villain in one sci-fi epic and then playing a villain again in another sci-fi epic? Will that cause confusion with the audience? I don't think so at all. I think we are in a period of time right now where there are often times when an actor or an actress, Michael Pena recently had Vatican tapes and Ant-Man both in theater at the same time. Jennifer Lawrence has had films of hers in theater at the same time. It's happened a lot. Samuel L. Jackson, I don't know that there are ever days when Samuel Jackson isn't in some movie that's playing in theater at any given time. And remember, the Collector in Guardians of the Galaxy is so outlandish and so flamboyant and so out there and weird that even if Benicio del Toro is playing a villain in another sci-fi movie in Star Wars Episode 8, I don't think there's any risk or any danger of the audience becoming confused. Certainly not just because an actor is in multiple movies, and not just because he also happens to be playing a villain, because I think the characters are going to be wildly different and separate from each other, especially when you consider how outrageous, how outlandish the Collector is. And, that's the way they designed him to be, and more power to them. But no, myself, I don't see that being a problem. I think audiences are smart enough that they won't be confused by it. But thanks a lot for the question. All right, the third question today comes to us from Jordan Allen. And Jordan Allen writes, was just wondering, in this age where they seem to be making films about anything, since Clash of Clans, try saying that 10 times fast. Since Clash of Clans is a relatively popular game, I think, amongst all ages, do you think there are rumblings about a film for it going on somewhere? You know what, Jordan? It's not a ridiculous question. In today's day and age, when so many movies are being made, there's just more movies being made today, more full-length feature films than at any time in history. And every year, more and more movies get produced. And so in such a crowded landscape, number one, I say this all the time, there are, contrary to popular belief, there are more original films being made today than any time in history. There are more original films being produced today than any time in history. It's just a fact. However, There are also more remakes based on books, based on comics, sequels, based on games, based on this, based on that. There are more non-original feature films, and that's a weird term to use, but when I say non-original, I just mean the movie originates from some sort of source material other than just a blank screenplay for a screenwriter. So whether it's a book or it's a comic book or it's a video game or a previous movie incarnation, a television show, whatever. There are more original films than any time in history being produced, but there are also more non-original films being produced today than at any time in history. And in talking about something like Clash of Clans, remember, in such a crowded landscape now, where so many films are being produced, to start, if you can start with an IP, with an intellectual property that people already recognize and people maybe already have some sort of association with, then as far as marketing goes, you start 3 steps ahead of the game. Clash of Clans is a very recognizable name, at least right now in North American circles. I don't know if it's big or not overseas. Maybe it's the biggest thing in the world in Italy. I just don't know. I'll talk to my Italian relatives and find out. But as far as here in North America, most people have heard of Clash of Clans. And so it's understandable that studios then think, well, since there's an IP here that everybody seems to already know and recognize, and that would give us a few steps ahead of the game, maybe we should develop something around that. Or, and this happens more times than you think, or they say, we got a script and it's good, but it reminds us a lot of Clash of Clans. You could, if you just rework this script a little bit, you could totally make it fit Clash of Clans, and that way we get this good script and we get this IP that everybody already recognizes, and it's a win-win. That happens more times than you might think. There have been several video games in the past where they took screenplays that were meant for something else and then just kind of reworked them to match the name of an IP. Turns out they didn't work out anyway, but that's neither here nor there. So it's not a ridiculous thing. I don't play Clash of Clans. I really like mobile games, but I don't play Clash of Clans. I've got several buddies of mine who play it incessantly, especially like one of my best friends in town, Sol. Sol is also the CFO and executive producer for all things Fine Brothers, who the Fine Brothers, they're actually buddies of mine. They just like literally work 5-minute walk up the street. Anyway, but my buddy Sol, he is just like constantly on his Note 4 and constantly playing either Clash of Clans or other types of mobile games. I tried Clash of Clans for about 30 seconds and then I realized this is a freemium game and I deleted it immediately. I will not play freemium games. If you don't know what a freemium game is, and I know this is not meant to be Collider mobile game talk, but indulge me for a second. If you don't know what a freemium game is, it's a game that's free to download and free to play, but really to get anywhere in the game or to unlock the things you really need to have fun with the game, pay $2 to get 50 gold coins so you can buy that sword you need. Pay $3.99 to get 6 stacks of silver so you can build that fort that you need. It's those types of games. I got hooked. I told the story before. I got hooked on that damn Simpsons game. That Simpsons Tapped Out game. Damn, that was a fun game. Fun and addicting and expensive. I am a world-class sucker. I spent probably north of $200 on Simpsons Tapped Out. I'm the idiot that keeps games like that coming out. But when I realized, I stopped myself like an alcoholic who hits rock bottom, and I looked at where I was like, holy crap, I have spent over $200 on this stupid little mobile game. Tap, tap, tap. And I realized this has got to stop. This has got to change. And I committed myself that I would never play a freemium game again. Either give me a purely free game or give me a game that I can pay you $5, $6 for right now and just play it to my heart's content. No more freemium games for me. And actually, South Park did an entire episode once on the problem of freemium games. It's one of their funnier, I put it in my top 10 favorite South Park episodes. If you haven't seen it, you should check it out and give it a look. So, hey, is it outside the possibility? I would be shocked if there weren't studios right now talking about the possibility of Clash of Clans. But let's also remember this. This isn't like Dungeons and Dragons. This Clash of Clans isn't a thing that generations of people have played and is a global phenomenon. This has been around for like a year or two and may be gone next year, whatever. So that's another thing people are going to, in studios, will have to consider. It's like by the time we start doing pre-production, develop this film, then produce it, do post-production, get in theaters, is Clash of Clans even going to be something that anybody's playing anymore? So that's another thing that those guys got to keep in mind. All right, let's move on to the next question. And the next question today comes to us from Santiago Ruvira. I hope I got that right. And Santiago writes this. Hey, Collider crew, I'm a huge fan of the show and watch it every day. Well, thank you so much. Appreciate that. I love the green look. Thanks. It's growing on me. My question is, why older movies so rarely show up in theaters? I would pay to see movies like Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, or Pulp Fiction in theaters, but it just doesn't seem to happen very often. Why do you think that is? That is a terrific question. And because everybody knows this. I don't work for AMC anymore, but I've been saying this even back in my movie blog days. And I said it at AMC, and I'll say it now. There is no better way to enjoy a film than in a movie theater. It is the best way to experience a movie. I've got a great home theater system. I've got the big giant screen TV. I've got the surround system. It's great. Wow. Fun. Wonderful. Nothing compares to the experience, the night out, going out. It's an event to me. Going out to the movies. It is the best. It is simply the best. And I love it when films I love, like when Jurassic Park got re-released, or when Back to the Future got re-released, tons of years ago when Star Wars got its re-release and all that kind of stuff. I love it when movies that I really love are back on the big screen. I can go with a crowd of people and see it on the big screen, the way these movies were meant to be viewed and meant to be seen. I love it. However, and I've also wondered, why don't we do this more often? The reason being, it's expensive. It's expensive to do it because you can't just, for instance, take, Lion King and drop it in theaters because nobody knows it's in theaters. You'd have to show up at the movie theater that night and just see on the billboard, oh, Lion King is playing. Okay, well, then I'll change my plans and watch that. You have to do a big marketing campaign, especially if you want to do it like, nationwide. Now you're committing tens of millions of dollars to a marketing campaign. So you've gone from this idea of, hey, the movie's already made, so it's free, just put it in movies. Now there's a price tag. Now there's like a $10, $15 million price tag. Let's say you don't give it a full marketing campaign like you would for a regular movie, but you're still going to be committing like at least $10 million. Well, now putting that movie in theater, you got to make at least $10 million at the box office. More, you actually got to make about $15 million just to break even for putting it back out in theaters again. And while Lion King was a huge success when it was re-released, while Star Wars was a huge success while it re-released, a lot of films are not. And they actually end up losing the studio money for re-releasing it. Now, also put on top of that, the movie theaters. Movie theaters will put anything in a theater if they think it'll fill up the theater. But if they think, hey, we can either put up, I don't know, let's say The 40-Year-Old Virgin, one of my top two, sometimes my number one, sometimes my number two favorite comedy of all time. We can either put The 40-Year-Old Virgin and re-release it on this screen, or we could put Jurassic World in its 7th week on that screen. Which one is going to get more people to come into the theater? Because the more people that come into the theater, the more popcorn that gets bought, the more soda that gets bought. It makes us more money if we put a movie on that screen that'll get the most people. And a lot of these re-releases don't do big business unless it's part of a big coordinated nationwide campaign, and that can be expensive. Believe me, if movie theaters and studios thought that, hey, if we put up $20 million to re-release this, it'll make us $40 million, they'd be doing it every single week. But unfortunately, that's just not the case. It happens in some situations, but that's the minority of them, and which sucks because I love seeing these older films on screens. And so sometimes you'll get like individual theaters will have special screening nights for, these classic older movies, and I love going those. But as far as like wide releases and nationwide, and everybody gets to go see, The Fly. Next month, The Fly is going to be nationwide again. See it for a week. Go into the theater, see it. It's very difficult to do because it's an expensive endeavor. All right, let's move on to the next question. And the next question today comes to us from Greg Voigt. And Greg Voigt writes, "Hey guys, thanks for the amazing show. I was looking on Box Office Mojo and saw that Superman Returns had a budget of $270 million. Is that rumor right? I mean, I cannot see how that movie cost so much. Thanks, and keep up the great work." Well, thanks a lot for the question, Greg. I actually like Superman Returns. I do. I think it was a terrible comic book movie, but I thought it was a good movie. But as a comic book movie, it totally failed. I mean, how do you have a Superman movie and he fights a plane falling from the sky? I mean that's it. How do you have a Superman movie where he doesn't fight anything or anybody? I mean, it's bad comic book movie, but I understood what Bryan Singer was going for in that film. He made more of a human drama in many ways. It was a question about what do you do if you're a god man, where you have like all the power in the world, and yet you don't know how to connect to people, particularly the woman you love. You have no idea how to make that relationship work. You can crush mountains, but you can't figure out how to make this relationship work or how to fit in with this world. I'm human, yet I'm not human, yet I liked the movie on that level very much, as a matter of fact. I thought Brandon Routh was a great Superman. I really did. But as a comic book movie, it totally failed. Anyway, the question is so poignant because how did that movie cost $270 million? You watch that movie. I don't see $270 million. I maybe see 170, maybe, but I do not see $200 million in that film. Truth be told, I don't even see 170, but $270 million on that movie, ridiculous. But here's the catch. That $270 million is not just Superman Returns. That figure actually figures in and takes into account all the development costs of Superman Returns, which includes Superman Lives, the movie that is the basis of John Schnepp's documentary, The Death of Superman Lives, What Happened? That Tim Burton, Nicolas Cage Superman. That $270 million that is a part of the budget of Superman Returns actually includes all the money that Warner Brothers spent on the development and everything of Superman Lives, which never actually even happened. But they already spent millions and millions and millions of dollars. Remember, Superman Lives wasn't just an idea and then they gave up on the idea. It was a green light. I mean, they were ready to go. They were ready to shoot. They had done all this development. If you'd seen John Schnepp's movie, The Death of Superman Lives, you know how much work had already gone into that film. They were ready. They were like days away from getting in front of the cameras and hitting record. I mean, it was everything. And director Tim Burton, he had a pay for play deal, which meant that even if this movie doesn't happen, you have to pay me my full fee. And that alone was like $10 to $15 million. So he got paid. So that also gets counted towards it. So while, it's natural for us, for you and me, to sit down and look like, wait a minute, what the bleeping F? Superman Returns had a budget of $270 million. Got to keep in mind that there should be an asterisk beside that includes all the development money since the early 1990s, which included all the expenses and all the costs that went into Superman Lives. It's kind of counted as one big project, culminating in Superman Returns. So you're right. That is a horribly inflated number, $270 million, but it's not just that movie. It also counts all the development money that went into the never seeing the light of day, Superman Lives. And once again, just as a shameless plug for my buddy's movie, make sure you watch The Death of Superman Lives, What Happened? All right, let's move on to the next question. And the next question today comes to us from Perishable. And Perishable writes, on a recent mailbag episode, John mentioned that in the world of fantasy literature, The Lord of the Rings is the story that stands a man among boys. Well, I don't think that's exactly how I put it, but anyway, there you go. And that is a factor into why it was so successful theatrically. But what about Chronicles of Narnia? One could argue that those stories are right beside Lord of the Rings in terms of public knowledge and popularity. Do you have any insight as to why the movie series seemed to have failed while Lord of the Rings was so successful? Also, have you heard any news on the next Narnia movie and its production? Thanks. Well, thanks a lot for the question, Parable. And, let's go back to the first thing you asserted, that the whole notion that the Chronicles of Narnia is right on par or on level with the Lord of the Rings as far as popularity of the original source material goes. I would say that that's probably not true. Now, I believe an argument can be made that the Chronicles of Narnia, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe is as popular as, Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring. I mean, I don't think it is, but an argument could be made that it is, that The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe is. However, when you start talking about Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring, The Two Towers, Return of the King, like everybody's heard of those things even before the movies came out. You talk to a lot of people, they've heard of Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe. But if you say Silver Chair, they'll go, huh? Voyage of the Dawn Treader, Caspian. You say those to them, they're like, what? Most people would not have any idea what we're talking about. So as far as a series, like Lord of the Rings as a series, the Chronicles of Narnia as a series, the Chronicles of Narnia as a series just really don't compare to the popularity of the Lord of the Rings as a series per se. Now, also speaking to that about the fact that, hey, Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe is very well known culturally, very popular. They did make one movie, Chronicles of Narnia, Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, and that movie made like over $700 million worldwide. I mean, domestically alone, it made almost 300, it made like $291 million domestically. Clearly a huge, successful franchise. And then came Chronicles of Narnia, Prince Caspian. And that went from making $291 million domestically in The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, $291 million, and the next movie dropped by more than half to like $140 million. And the quality of the film dipped as well. So you had this huge dip once you went from a very known property, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, to Prince Caspian, which is something a lot of people hadn't heard of. And it took a massive dip, over a 50% drop, down to like $141 million domestically. And I think worldwide, it went from like 720 or 700 and something million dollars worldwide. It took over a $300 million dip down to about $400 million worldwide. So your trajectory went like this. And then the third film, Voyage of the Dawn Treader, you went from like $141 million worldwide to like $100 million worldwide. So you went from almost $300 million in the first film to about $140 million in the second film to about $100 million in the third film. And the quality, I would suggest, it's all subjective, this is just my opinion, the quality, I believe, just continued to go down as well, to the point that they weren't even watchable. So, the Lord of the Rings films, though, they were like steady, man, successful, and they were high quality, and they were each nominated for Best Picture of the Year. So you had high quality, much greater awareness of the source material and all that kind of stuff. Now, there has been whispers here and there about another studio picking up the Chronicles of Narnia and continuing on the series. I haven't heard anything firm, though, like really, really solid on it. I would be surprised if another company, considering that trajectory we were talking about, I would be quite surprised if another company decided to pick it up and tried going with it. So I don't think it'll happen. I do think at some point, sometime in the future, because of the popularity of Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe, I think somebody might reboot Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe, say 5 years from now or 10 years from now or whatever. But as far as this particular series and this particular continuity, I think it's probably pretty much over. All right, let's move on to the next question. And the next question today comes to us from John Harville, who writes, Tye Courtney, why? Why and who is shoving this guy down our throats? He's like the broccoli that I didn't want as a kid, but my mom wouldn't let me leave the table. Now it's like she keeps sending me to watch Terminator Genesis, Divergent, Insurgent, Detergent, and now Suicide Squad. I find him very bland, serviceable, not terrible, but just kind of meh. Do studios take a guy and just say, this is the guy that's going to be the next guy? Or am I just missing something? Good day and bring on the filthy. Thanks a lot for the question, John. This is a discussion, Tye Courtney. that comes up a lot around the movie talk studios because, if you want to talk about somebody who really does not like Tye Koellner, it's our Kristian Harloff. Kristian Harloff does not like Tye Koellner. And look, you listed off a number of movies that were not great. I mean, you're looking at Terminator Genisys. You're looking at the Divergent series and stuff like that. Or look at that one Die Hard movie. He was, I think it was Die Hard 5 or Die Hard 4. I lost track of the numbers. I think it's Die Hard 5 that he was in where he played Bruce Willis's son. You look at just those, and if you're like most film fans and you just say, oh, was that actor in good movies? No, then he's a bad actor. Was that actor in bad movies? Yes, then he's a bad actor. I think there's more to it than that, because I actually think Tye Koellner is pretty talented. Look, was he in I, Frankenstein? Yes. And was he bad in I, Frankenstein? Well, he looked bad, but let's be fair about this. A fantastic actor in Aaron Eckhart was also in I, Frankenstein, and he made him look bad. And we know he is a fantastic actor. And I, Frankenstein made him look bad. So you can't really ping Tye Koellner for that. In the Divergent series, does he come across as bad? Maybe, but look, you've got actresses like Naomi Watts. You've got Academy Award winner Kate Winslet, 7-time Academy Award nominee, 6 or 7-time Academy Award nominee. Kate Winslet in that. And it makes her look bad. So can you bing Tye Koellner for looking bad in that when you've got Academy Award winners looking bad in that as well? Look, my perception of Tye Koellner comes from a position of where my first exposure to him, and quite often our first experience with something will kind of set the tone for what we think about it later on. And so admittedly, my first exposure to Tye Koellner was in the television show Spartacus, where he played like Spartacus's best friend. I'm telling you, if you haven't seen Spartacus, he's fantastic in that. He's really good in that, playing Spartacus's friend. Has an untimely demise. But anyway, everybody dies in Spartacus, so no big spoiler there. But I mean, he's really, really quite good in Spartacus. And like, while some people like Kristian will disagree, and that's fair, I actually thought he was quite good in Jack Reacher. Was that a brilliant movie? No, but I thought he was a good villain in that film. I thought he stood up very, very well. So, and Terminator Genisys, once again, everybody looked bad in that movie. Emilia Clarke looked bad in Terminator Genisys. I mean, it's just the way it is. But I think if you just look past whether the movie was good or bad and try to let's see what the real talent level is. Let's look at them in a multiple levels of stuff. What do we see? And I think a lot of the studios see what I see, which is you got a talented guy here who's been in some horrible crap that's made everybody look bad that's been in it. But we think he's good. And that's why Warner Brothers, even though they got a lot riding on this new DC cinematic universe, they say, yeah, we're comfortable getting this guy, Tye Koellner, and putting him in. Because I think when you take away the horrible movies and look at television shows or movies that he was in that weren't horrible and then see, okay, was he any good in those? When the answer to that question is yes, I mean, once again, that's subjective. But for me, the answer is yes. Fabulous in Spartacus. I thought he was really good in Jack Reacher. Then you can look at him as possibly being a guy you can turn to and trusting certain characters to. Would I trust Tye Koellner right now as a big major leading man? Even I would say no. I got to see that he can carry a film. And so far, we haven't seen that. But if I'm a producer, do I feel comfortable in trusting one of my characters to him, though? Like one of the strong supporting characters, in my movie? The answer to that is yes. Is he the first guy I go out to cast? Probably not, to be honest. But would I feel comfortable with it if a director came to me and I'm producing the film, the director said, I want Tye Koellner in this number 2 or number 3 or number 4 position role in the film? Would I as a producer feel comfortable with that? Personally, for me, the answer is yes. So anyway, and look, somebody else brought up, he's being shoved down our throats in so many things. He's actually not in all that many movies. Look, I just mentioned Naomi Watts. She's got 7 films coming out between now and the end of 2017. Samuel Jackson's got 75 films coming out between now and the end of the month. Lots of actors appear in a bunch of stuff. Him being in a few films a couple of films a year is really not all that much. So let's not over exaggerate that. But look, totally understand. If you're somebody who doesn't appreciate Tye Courtney, I can't argue against you. I can only say that my personal opinion is different. I gave you the reasons why it's different, but it's up to you to decide whether he works for you or doesn't. Thanks a lot for the question, man. Let's move on to the next question and the final question of the day. And the final question today comes to us from Vamsi Papusetti. Vamsi Papusetti, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I have been a fan for about a year now and a fan of John Campea since 2008. Oh, thanks a lot, Vamsi. Recently, some people told me that male actors make more money than female actors. Is this true, and why is it? In a recent mailbag episode, John said that there are not many female lead superhero films because they did not make as much money as male-led superhero films. Does this apply to all films, and does this have something to do with the possible fact that the majority of film viewers are male, and that having a male lead film might attract more viewers because it would make it easier for them to relate to the characters? Well, thanks a lot for the question, Vamsi. It's a fair question. Look, one of the big problems that we still face in our society today that we do not address, and look, our society has made tremendous advances in the last 30 years in terms of racial equal rights and racism and trying to, get rid of racism. Have we accomplished it? No, but if you look at the world 30 years ago and look at it today, we've made great strides. We've made great strides in understanding, sexual orientation equality and gay rights and things like that. Are we all the way there yet? Have we squashed out hatred? No, we have not. But if you compare to where we were 30 years ago, we've made great progress, and we need to continue that. But I think one of the areas that we don't talk about enough is the issue of gender equality. Gender equality is still this dirty little secret that just nobody wants to talk about. It's in our own industry. It's everywhere. Gender equality, I think, is a very important thing that we do not give enough attention to, and we absolutely should. Now, that being said, here's the thing. I've made the argument before that studios are amoral. They don't have a morality. They like to pretend they have a morality, but they don't. Studios are exclusively concerned with what makes money. That's what they're concerned about. And I know people don't like it when I say this, but it's true. I don't fault them for that. They're a business. That's what they're supposed to do. Within the legal limitations, that is what you're supposed to do. I don't have a problem with that studios just focus on what makes money. And I would suggest that a studio doesn't really care if an actor or actress is male or female. What they care about is what makes us more money. And we will ascribe a dollar value to that based on what we think will make us more money or puts us in a position to make more money. That's what they make their decisions on. When it comes to the crotch area, they don't see penis or vagina. They don't care. They only see dollar signs. That's all they care about. Now, to go towards that, let's look at, I looked up some lists. This is a report I found on the Hollywood Reporter. So maybe there are other reports that contradict it, but this is a report. These are the top 9 highest paid actors today. Okay, I'm just going to read off this list. And in this top 9, at number 1 is Leonardo DiCaprio. He is right now the highest paid actor in Hollywood. He demands $25 million per film. And I think that's justified. When you have Leonardo DiCaprio in your movie, you almost assure yourself that you're going to have a fighting chance to have a great movie because he is simply one of the best actors in the world right now. He brings it. He promotes his films. He's a big guy and his films succeed and his films make money. And so you look at that guy makes money. They put a dollar value. So right now, DiCaprio right now, I believe, is demanding $25 million a film. In second place is Sandra Bullock, who makes $20 million a film. I don't know that Sandra Bullock, this performer, regardless of gender, deserves $20 million a film, but people see the stuff she's in makes money. They saw Gravity as being a big hit, and Gravity's mostly focused on her. And, her thing went up. Tied with Sandra Bullock is also Robert Downey Jr., Matt Damon, and Denzel Washington. All those people are tied for $20 million a film. So you see Sandra Bullock tied in there with that. Now, after that, the number 6 highest person, after that big clunk of number 2, that tie for number 2 with Sandra Bullock, number 6 is Angelina Jolie. Angelina Jolie demands anywhere between $15 and $20 million a film right now. So there's that. The number 7 is Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, who demands between $14 and $15 million a film. Number 8 is Jennifer Lawrence, who right now is demanding between $10 to $15 million a film. So in the top 8, 3 of the top 8 right now are actresses. And I think there may be a lot of periods of time in our history when there would not have been 3 actresses in the top 8. And right now we have 3 in the top 8. And she's actually tied with Mark Wahlberg. That's why I say this list is the top 9. She's actually tied with Mark Wahlberg for highest paid at $10 to $15 million. So, and if you look at that list, it's really hard to argue with that list. Leo DiCaprio's movies make money. The Rock makes money. Robert Downey Jr.'s, the judge's side, makes money. Denzel Washington is a draw. Jennifer Lawrence is a draw. Matt Damon is a draw. These people are draws. And that's what the studios care about. What effect does it have on our chances to make money with our movies by putting this person in or putting this person in? And that's really what it comes down to. That doesn't mean there's not an issue of gender equality in the world of Hollywood. There is. There absolutely is, and something we need to be vigilant about and keep our eyes on. But as far as how much studios will pay an actor or an actress, all they see is dollar signs. They're amoral. All they see is dollar signs. Now, when it comes to female directors, when it comes to female screenwriters and giving, more female directors and screenwriters the opportunity and the chance to make these films, that's a different issue and one that needs to be addressed. But if we're just talking about actors and actresses, which is what was in your question, I think we're at least closer to equality today than I think we ever have been. And I think a list like this kind of is a testimony towards that. All right, folks, that will do it for us for this installment of Mailbag. Thank you so much for joining us. Listen, don't forget, if you love entertainment news, you need to bookmark Collider.com. Steve Frosty Reintraub and his crack team of writers over there on the Collider website do a fantastic job keeping you up to date, up to the minute with what's going on in the world of entertainment with great insight, great reporting. I highly recommend you bookmark Collider.com. Make sure you subscribe to this YouTube channel. Just click the subscribe button. Keep up to date on all the videos we got going on here at Collider Video on our YouTube channel. And if you want an audio-only edition for a limited time, just search on iTunes or your favorite Android podcast application for Collider Video, and you'll find our podcast there, and you can subscribe to us there as well. Make sure you follow us on Instagram. We have an Instagram account. Wendy around here puts up new Instagram pictures almost every day for what goes on around here at the office. Make sure you're following and commenting on it there. Make sure you like us on Facebook. Just look for Collider. We are on Facebook. Make sure you like us there. So many ways to keep in touch with us and follow us. And you can follow me on Twitter and on Facebook simply at John Campia. And once again, guys, if you've got a question you'd like on one of our shows, just email us at collidervideo@gmail.com. That'll do it for today, guys. Thanks so much for joining me. Until tomorrow, my name is John Campia. And until then, bye-bye.